What is up, Karma Nation? Welcome into the Week 11 edition of the Game Theory Podcast. I am your host, Bales. With Sam, we have no Ben Hostler. He is busy with Thanksgiving duties. Before we get started, I do want to mention that on the website, you'll see that we actually have a Thanksgiving Day slate now. It's $5 for the Thanksgiving slate. If you don't know Ben, that dude dominates Thanksgiving every single year. It's super weird that it's more or less his best day, but it is what it is. I also want to give a quick shout out to SuperDraft, our sponsor. If you guys are not in our community, they're running free rolls for us. As long as you're in a state that can play, it's free and you can actually win a good amount of money. It makes no sense for you guys not to jump in. So if you're not in our Discord, go ahead, pop in. It's absolutely free. You don't even need to purchase anything to get in, and then we will hand out free rolls in there. I highly recommend doing this. If you do want to join our core plays, you can find them on dfskarma.com and go to the shop. Obviously, you can get a week-long subscription to NFL or a month-long. All of our free content is found on the site as well. I know I have multiple articles up. Ben's usually come out Friday, Final Thoughts Saturday. Sam, you will have yours out tomorrow, right?
Yep.
And then we will obviously have Game Theory out as well. But now let's get into this week. Before we start, it is not a good week, in my opinion. Sam, do you feel that it's even decent? Just because we have 2 games over a 50 total. We have been lucky enough to just have weeks where it was 10 games a week just going off. That doesn't seem like it's going to be the case. I'm not a huge fan of this week. I don't know if you feel any differently, though.
Yeah, it's funny. It's weird because, I always say in general, like if you look at the NFL product, it's not great. It's great for fantasy, and that's why we do it. But it's crazy that all the primetime games are sick games and have these high totals, and just none of them on the main slate. So I agree with you. The only thing I do like about it is that at least, I don't know, there's probably gonna be some slate breaking injuries or something, but it does seem like it's the first time in a while where it's not going to be a 2v2 in cash, at least in my opinion, which is at least one good thing. Last week was just crazy. Everyone was playing the exact same running backs for the most part, and it came down to which receiver went off and which punt went off. So I like it in that thing, but I do agree it's not as fun to stack like a 58-point total game and then try to find leverage around it. But it is what it is, and I'm just excited the Patriots are just dominating. They're going to win the Super Bowl. So.
Yeah, Patriots are real good, but it's an odd slate, and I do agree that this week seems a little bit more open. The big issue is that there are a lot of just weird injury news, a lot of weird injury news that we don't know what's going to happen. Like Devontae Adams, he was limited yesterday, out today. It wouldn't be shocking if he just participates tomorrow and he plays. It also wouldn't be overly shocking if, because they downgrade him to out, he's out. DeAndre Swift is out today with a concussion, so looks unlikely to play. That was going to be really popular. Alvin Kamara, I believe, missed practice today. We still don't know about Kenny Golladay. There's just a lot of really weird stuff, but we can more or less dissect that.
I'll add a couple on. Stafford, we don't know. I expect he does play. He's kind of a badass. I just saw a notification literally 5 seconds ago that T. Higgins now is hurt or has an illness.
Oh, man.
It's become more and more of a thing, especially with COVID. It's almost impossible to build a lineup before Friday late afternoon or Saturday.
Yeah, the only thing that I can say that we're legitimately thankful for is that Las Vegas isn't on this slate, and with their entire defense basically out at the moment, it looks like most of them are going to play. Clelin Ferrell is out with COVID. The other guys just need to test positive because they were close contacts. Anything can happen at this point, though. So we can get started here, though, and we're going to start with what I personally believe is probably the best game in terms of fantasy on the slate, and that's going to be the Atlanta Falcons at New Orleans Saints. Drew Brees has already been ruled out. Calvin Ridley, I believe, is questionable. He was limited in practice today, so I'm guessing he plays. Alvin Kamara is questionable. He did not practice today. And Traquan Smith, I believe, was limited today with a concussion as well. So go ahead and you break down this game for me, because there's really a lot to like here, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I think, just starting with the obvious pieces. I mean, first of all, I do fully expect Kamara to play. I just don't. I mean, I think he's one of those guys. It seems like he's turned into one of these guys that are similar to Julio or Devontae, where like they could just not practice all week and then they can still dominate. It doesn't really matter. So Kamara isn't a smash spot. I think if he plays, obviously, like he is every week. I mean, everyone knows like who Kamara is. I just wanted to mention, because it's so absurd, that I talk about my article every week, high value touches in regards to running backs. And that's basically any touch receiving, rushing, inside, the red zone, more like inside the 10-yard line. Alvin Kamara, high value touches this year, is at 85. The next closest guy on this slate is Ezekiel Elliott with 57. So the volume is so insane that I think it's tough, because people are too sharp now. And like, I was hoping more people could see if the Falcons actually have a decent rush defense per DVOA, but then you remember that Kamara doesn't actually rush the ball a ton. It doesn't really matter. So he's a smash play. I think Michael Thomas is going to have an insane game coming up. It just doesn't make sense for him to keep not doing a lot. And I mean, maybe I'm just kind of burying the lead here. I mean, I love that Jameis is starting this game. I mean, could be rust. Last week, I wouldn't say he looked incredible, but he couldn't have a better matchup to be playing in his first game in a long time. This Falcons D just sheds points to basically every position except running backs. I think that actually my favorite kind of different play, with the exception of, discounting Julio and all these other guys, I kind of really like Jared Cook, especially with Traquan Smith. Jared Cook is incredibly frustrating, because he will have a good matchup and then doesn't really see the volume, but he has a lot of red zone targets. I think he has the third most red zone targets in the league in tight ends. He's first in points per snap, and the Falcons have been crushed by tight ends recently. So I probably will play Jameis, probably not in cash, although I don't even think that's that absurd. There's a lot of unknowns, but I like Jameis. I like all those pieces. And the other side, Julio without Ridley, we know he'll be peppered, but I actually would, again, prefer if Ridley was in, because then Julio won't see double coverage. But Julio is obviously an elite play anytime he steps in the field. So, and no Bales, I'm not playing Matt Ryan. I'm not doing
no Matt Ryan, finally.
I'm not playing Matt Ryan.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with you. I wrote up in my stacks article, Jameis Winston, Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas. Thomas is really good at deep balls. Most people just don't know it, because Drew Brees refuses to throw them. I don't think Jameis is going to refuse to throw him. I guarantee you that under Sean Payton, Jameis is not this ridiculous gunslinger that he was last year. He's not going to make those decisions. But he's still a significant gunslinger upgrade over Drew Brees. I can tell you that. I'm also not really on Matt Ryan. I think that Julio Jones is 100% fine, but I doubt I play him over Michael Thomas. So I do believe that there's probably spots that you can get both of them. They are expensive, though. Hayden Hurst, I'm fine with. I like your Jared Cook call. I don't even slightly trust him whatsoever. That just seems to be Jared Cook.
Yeah.
And then Alvin Kamara, 100% fine. I'm not really going to touch Gurley or Latavius Murray. If Calvin Ridley is healthy and playing, I'm fine going there. It's still Calvin Ridley. I don't mind it whatsoever. I'm not going to prioritize him. I don't know if you are.
No, my thing is, would you say, and we'll get to obviously cash and tournaments after. I think Michael Thomas, even with Jameis, hasn't played a lot of snaps. I think he's 100% cash viable, just because his price is so low. I think he should be up against Sheffield, who I think sucks. I think he gives up 25% of his targets or something, which is insane for these cornerbacks. So I don't know. I'd be fine. Obviously, in tournaments, I'd have a stack with Jameis, but I'd be fine just playing. If you play Kamara and Michael Thomas in cash, if you can get it. I know it's expensive, but you could easily soak up over 50% of the volume of the entire Saints offense. So.
Yeah, I have no problems with that. I also think that if you're going to use Manny Sanders, this is the week to use him. He's coming off one catch for 5 yards. No one's really going to play him, and he now has a more free throwing Jameis Winston at quarterback. So if there was a time to play him, it's this week. Yep. The other game with a 51 over under is the Green Bay Packers and Indianapolis Colts, which is kind of shocking because neither team really has that high of an implied total because I think the line's 2.5. Favored the Colts. I was actually slightly surprised to see that Green Bay was favored or was the underdog, but I mean, it makes sense. The Colts are a really good team and it's in Indianapolis. So go ahead and tell me what you like in this game.
Yeah, this is a tough one. And I know, I mean, a lot of the year, and I get it. Well, first of all, this game is just annoying because they both play so slow. The Packers, I think, are one of the slowest teams in the NFL. We know that the Colts are like that too. I mean, basically, where you beat Green Bay is obviously on the ground. I don't know. Is Jair Alexander going to be back, or is he probably going to miss?
I haven't seen, but I don't believe they're expecting both corners to be out again. So it should be an upgrade from last week.
Yeah, and I mean, again, people saw Rivers looked fine. I still have zero interest in Rivers. I don't really care who they're playing. I just don't trust him to have these like massive games that, because I'm not going to play him in cash, and it's just hard to see him having a ceiling game that wins your tournament. I mean, I think, and it feels like I'm point chasing, but I really do have the most interest in Nyheim Hines because Jonathan Taylor, I mean, yeah, he gets a majority of the rushes, and I think we all wish they kind of trusted him more, but he just hasn't been, per Pro Football Focus, he hasn't been very elusive, and Hines just gets so many targets. I mean, I talked about those high value targets. I mean, Hines is up there with all of any running back in the league with a lot of those. I think he sees about 4 to 5 a game, and I could more like, and it feels like, talking betting for a second, this feels like a trap. I want to bet the Packers. I like you. I don't understand why they're not favored because I think they're a superior team, but I don't know. I like Hines better, and I can also see the Colts trailing in this game because despite the Colts defense being really, really good, Rodgers is also really, really good. So I don't know. I mean, I'm curious what your takes are on. I mean, it's obvious Devonta Adams is a man, like whatever. He's obviously probably the best wide receiver player on the slate every week. But what are you doing with like Aaron Jones? I don't know what to make of him. He sees a lot of volume. We know the NDD is good, but I don't know. I think this game has potential and might actually not be that high owned because these teams are slow and have decent defenses, but I don't know how I want to attack it besides the obvious of Devonta Adams.
Yeah, pretty crazy. I think Adams he's fine in cash, anything you want to play Devonta Adams, assuming he's healthy, 100% fine. On the other side at running back, I favor Nyheim Hines as well. It's just Green Bay really struggles against receiving backs, and that's clearly what Hines is. And, they will give him the occasional touch inside the 20. So I don't really mind it. I know, like, you're just kind of playing with fire, hoping that Taylor struggles in the beginning, and then they pull him, put in Hines. Hines plays well. It's just what Frank Reich's doing. It's a weird strategy. But I think if this matchup plays well to one Indy running back, it's Hines. Aaron Jones, I get it, but he's just so expensive and he's so dependent on scoring, which was fine early in the season. Like when you saw that he had 3 touchdowns against Detroit, right? Adams only played basically half, and they didn't really use him because he was hurt. And since Adams has come back, Jones has scored, is it 1 touchdown or 2 touchdowns?
It's no more than 2, but I think it's 1. Yeah.
So we know that when they get close to they're getting on like the 2-yard line and they're still just throwing to Adams, and no one's even coming close to covering him. So why stop it? And, Jones has the floor because he catches so many balls, and he has the ceiling because Green Bay's offense can go off, and he's just a major part of it. He gets great touches. But it's just tough I don't really trust him at 72 compared to some of the other running backs.
I mean, I think the only reason I would be interested in him is just because, like you said, he seems overpriced given the matchup, so he will be low owned, I think. I mean, it can be a lot of noise. I mean, I do think it's interesting to note that the Colts have a pretty stout rush D, but when we get DVOA and like running back receiving yards, they're actually like a bottom 6 or 7 team. So it's tough again because Jamal Williams can always come in there. But I think if he were to receive a lot of targets and say people were smart enough to double cover Devonta Adams or triple or quadruple cover Devonta Adams, maybe there's a game there. But I agree with you. It does seem like to kind of have him pay off, you probably need a multi-touchdown performance. And that's crazy to think on that. So I agree with you there.
Yeah, he's just in like a weird spot where he's slightly above Mike Davis, but like you also want to get up to like Dalvin Cook.
Yeah.
For me, Dalvin Cook's just a much better play.
Yeah. The very last
So
thing
I
I'll
mean,
say, I just found this interesting while I was researching this game that the Colts have allowed 0 tight end touchdowns this year, and the Packers have allowed 1. For some reason, these
oh
teams
yeah, don't
suck.
touch tight ends in this game.
Yeah. Not that I was really begging to play Tanyan anyway, but I thought that was interesting.
I will say, I feel like people are going to chase Valdez-Scantling, but he's not just going to consistently catch deep touchdowns. It just can't happen. He has each the last 2 weeks.
Lazard should probably be back, right?
Yeah, Lazard should play, and he looked really good prior to getting hurt. And I actually, if there's one of those two that I'm going to play, it's going to be Lazard. I'm probably not honestly getting there. I do think that he's reasonable in tournaments. On the other side, I also think that Pittman Jr. is reasonable in tournaments. He's finally playing more snaps, finally seeing more targets. And if there's, one guy in the Indy passing attack that you're going to use, it's going to be Pittman. He just has more upside than everyone else. I don't know if you're looking at like T.Y. Hilton or anything, but I most certainly am not.
I've been burned by T.Y. too many times. I do like Pittman. I mean, Pittman seems like he's kind of, maybe just as a small sample, he does seem like the guy that Rivers has kind of been favoring a lot. I mean, I don't know. Marcus Johnson is there. I think he's kind of a deep threat, but yeah, Hilton just doesn't seem. And plus, I mean, if Jair's back or whoever is it, which Jackson is it? But I mean, yeah, I mean they're no slouch. So I do like probably just playing one of them with anything. But it's a tough game, and it's a weird one where it seems like the Packers the right play and it should go under, but I don't know. Vegas knows more often than
not. So that's how I feel. Moving on to the third game, we have the Tennessee Titans at Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens coming off a weird loss to your Patriots. I mean,
crazy. I mean, I'll say they probably would not have lost that game if the weather was good, but because that was ballistic. But man, I'll take that win.
Yeah, there's some weird prices on the slate. Like Lamar Jackson, I know he hasn't been doing Lamar Jackson things this year, but man, 7,300 is cheap, and Ryan Tannehill at 61 is it's pretty cheap too. I get the matchup's tough, and I'm not dying to attack it or anything, but I think both are tournament options. Outside of QB, break down what you're looking at for this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right on with Lamar. I mean, this Titans defense is bad. Like, it's real bad. I don't think people really realize, because there's so many terrible defenses that people pick on, like the Falcons and the Seahawks and like the Cowboys. But this Titans defense is pretty bad. I think the most interesting thing for me, which I'm looking at, is I think this game actually sets up kind of for a potential low on Derrick Henry smash spot. I get the Ravens are a good rush D if you look at DVOA and points and everything, but they're averaging over, giving up over 100 rush yards a game. Now, granted, that can be skewed because you have teams like the Patriots where they just ran all over them and they run the ball so much. But I don't know. I mean, they've given up over 100 yards in 5 of their 9 games. I think that's the only piece I really want to attack because, yeah, I think Tannehill's cheap, but I feel like he's been throwing less, and A.J. Brown can always go off, but I think the Ravens' pass D is still stout. Jonnu Smith has just not been – he hasn't topped 40 yards, I think, since week 3, and I don't think – which is really weird. I didn't realize that until I was up today, so I don't have a ton of interest there. I think the most interest I have, and everyone is waiting for him to break out of this slump, is Mark Andrews. I mean –
Yep.
Mark Andrews, number one, he is this tight end is a disaster on this slate, but he still leads all NFL tight ends in air yard share. I think it's about 24%. He still sees the targets and he still gets a ton of end zone targets. He just hasn't scored, I think, in at least 4 weeks or something like that. So I think he's a good play. And in the same vein with regression, I mean, Marquise Brown, people are just waiting. I don't know at this point if Lamar is missing him or if he's being covered well. I just haven't seen enough Ravens games, and last week again was quite literally a wash. So I don't know. I think I would have some interest in playing Derrick Henry and then and on the other side in the same lineup playing someone like Lamar and Andrews or Marquise Brown and Andrews. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we're basically on the same page. I'm not as high on Henry. I think he's a solid pivot off of Dalvin Cook. They're basically the same price, and everyone's just going to go Cook, as I believe they should. I would probably go Cook.
Yeah.
I don't know what to make of A.J. Brown. He's so good, and, 1 for 21 on 4 last week. It's just weird that they're not forcing him the ball. It makes no sense to me. So I think you can use him in tournaments, but just a ton of risk because Baltimore's pass defense is really good. And then, on the other side, Lamar Jackson to Hollywood Brown makes a lot of sense. I agree. It's always has that one catch that can score you, a ridiculous amount of fantasy points. Mark Andrews is also the guy that I'm really looking at. It just makes way too much sense that he's going to go off. And if you look at him last week, he had 9 targets. He caught 7 for 61. If you just throw in a touchdown, that's basically 20 fantasy points. Anyone will absolutely take that out of a tight end this year.
Yeah.
So I have no problems with that. We can get, do we even want to go over your favorite team at this point? Because we're here.
We can go quick on, it's weird. I can just start. I don't know. I don't even think it's that. I really do think that Damian Harris is an awesome play outside of my fandom, just because Houston just gets shredded day in and day out. They're just so bad. That's honestly what I want to talk. It's a risk because Burkhead
is Michelle coming back.
I don't think he's gonna be back this week, and if he is, he's coming off that injury. And I think he could have been activated, I believe, at least a week or two ago, and they didn't. And
that's why I think people are thinking he's coming back because
I don't know. I'm curious because I don't know. Cam has these games where he looks so bad as a thrower, and he's throwing it 300 miles an hour to a guy who's 2 yards away, and I get it. But it is interesting because he's priced up, but with how much of the offense just runs through him and all the goal line carries and everything, and just this Houston D just can't stop anybody. I think they give up. They give up over 150 rush yards a game. Harris has gone over 103 to 6, which I think is interesting. But on the other side of the ball, I won't deny, the Patriots defense, especially without Gilmore, all their holdouts, they suck. Their pass defense is not good. I don't know. Will Fuller has been a weird one. I can't figure it out. I actually think I prefer Brandon Cooks in this game. And then Duke Johnson kind of burned people last week. He got hurt, but I think he makes for a pretty interesting play. New England's been crushed by running backs. And Duke Johnson did play, I think, on 90% of the 90+% of snaps last week. So I don't know. I think this game could actually shoot out if the Patriots don't slow it down so much and just let Cam run a 9-minute drive to get a field goal. But I don't know. I just think it's a good one just because the defense is below.
I get what you're saying, and I think that Deshaun Watson is always in play. Mm-hmm. I have no real issues with Cam Newton. I'm not prioritizing him this week, but again, no problems. If you're looking at receivers for me, I'm fine with Will Fuller, Brandon Cooks, or Jacoby Myers, all for their prices. That's actually probably the order that I would prefer them in. As for the running backs, and this is where it gets weird, I think that Damian Harris is legitimately a good running back.
Mm-hmm.
My issue is if he doesn't score a touchdown, he's just not that good for fantasy because he catches literally nothing. Last week, he had 22 attempts for 121 yards. He scored 15.1 fantasy points.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if a guy like Alvin Kamara has 121 rushing yards. The dude's going to score 30.
70. Yeah, no, I trust me. I totally get it. I just think the price is high enough where I feel like people won't jam him in, which I think is interesting. But I agree with you. He's not dependent like he's 9,000 and has to score, but I agree with you there, the value. I did miss, and I was going to bring it up in cash. I think Jacoby Myers is completely cash playable. I don't think anyone in Houston stops anybody. This guy has seen 30 plus targets in the last 3 games. Is that sustainable? Probably not, but he does seem to be Cam's first look every single time. So I think he's pretty interesting at under 5,000.
Yeah, I agree there. I think that Harris is a fine play. It's just he has to score, and I hate relying on touchdowns. As for Duke Johnson, I did not want to play Duke Johnson last week. I do not want to play Duke Johnson this week. I get it, but last week was basically the perfect time to just dump him off a few passes. He had 1 target. I understand David Johnson's out and Duke Johnson is the guy, but does it matter? It's still Duke Johnson.
It was bizarre to me that when David Johnson's healthy, they bring in Duke to throw, and then he's out, and they're all right, let's stop throwing. I don't really get the Texans.
Yeah, they don't want to throw to the running back. It seems like I know Duke
game. He should have had 8 dump off. I don't understand what.
And I get it. He's probably going to go off. He's probably going to burn me. He'll probably have at least 5 catches. It just seems to be what happens. But like, if David Johnson was healthy, I probably wouldn't really be playing him this week. And Duke Johnson is just David Johnson at this point. Like, they're the same. I don't really want it. We can move to our cash plays at each. We'll go through cash plays at each position. Then we'll go through tournament options that we like. Starting at quarterback, who are you looking here?
I think my 3 that I have in consideration right now would be Watson, Burrow, and Herbert. Herbert seems expensive, and out of that haircut, I'm not so sure. But I think my number 1, if I had to guess, without taking all of yours, I think it would be Burrow. I mean, he just seems too cheap. I know the Washington D is good, but he just throws the ball so much.
Yeah, I have no issues with that. There's a lot of quarterbacks that I actually wouldn't really have any problems with. I think one guy really sticks out for tournaments, and if anyone missed the news, Teddy Bridgewater is not expected to play. That means PJ Walker will draw the start. He played for Matt Rule at Temple. He played with Robbie Anderson at Temple. Obviously, we watched him absolutely light it up in the XFL. Now he signed with the Panthers, and he's 4,800. I get the Joe Burrow love. I have Joe Burrow as my tournament option just because I can't imagine many people pay up for him versus PJ Walker. But I think Walker is going to end up being the chalk option at quarterback. But I do think that Justin Herbert gets some ownership. I think Deshaun Watson gets some. I wouldn't even be shocked at 7,300 if Lamar Jackson gets some. And then I'll add him to the list, Jameis Winston, because I don't mind him in cash. I'm just probably not going to use him there.
I mean, if you want me just to keep naming me, I'm just saying Alex Smith is like not the worst option on the slate.
Alex, yeah, I mean, he's you just pair him with J.D. McKissick and you're going to get 800 targets.
Exactly, right? And it's like, I mean, do I think if everyone's on him, he will fail? So that's a fact. If people play him, he will choke. But I'm just saying, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to decipher because last week, like, he threw a ton, but they were trailing. So it's kind of hard to see.
Yeah. I would put Burrow over him. And since they're basically the same price, I just can't justify it.
Mm-hmm.
Moving to running back, who are you looking at here?
Kind of the obvious. I mean, obviously, Kamara, Cook. I know Ben was disagreeing with me earlier, and I get it. His volume's been. I still really like Mike Davis. This Detroit defense does not. They get. I think they're officially now the worst against a running back per fantasy points. I mean, I think they give up well over 30 a game. It is a little concerning to see his usage has been a little bit down. But C-Mac's out again, obviously. Curtis Samuel stands to like elite side, but I still really like Mike Davis. And then I don't know. I mean, with this injury now, I was gonna say Swift, but now I have no idea. I don't know what to do with him. He seems overpriced, even though how good he is. I love DeAndre Swift too, but he seems expensive.
Yeah, Swift was gonna be in mine. Obviously, that he's probably out now. Kamara and Cook seem like the 2 clear options if you can spend up twice. I will agree with you on Mike Davis. I don't know if people realize, but last week he dislocated, I believe, a finger, and he had to leave the game. And I can't imagine like many guys are just going to go back in and play their full workload with a dislocated finger. Like, it's just not worth it, especially playing for Carolina at the moment. Other guys that I don't want to say, but I am considering.
I hope you're going to say I have my GPP hot one. I'm so all this guy.
Well, that's it for cash. And there's 3 that I'm considering. Antonio Gibson, he's just very good. Kalen Ballage, which I can't even believe I'm considering that. I would probably just play Gibson. And then Salvin Ahmed at 4,800 if you really need a cheap guy.
Is he pretty legit? Like, I can see the box score from last week, but I can't say I was watching a ton of that Miami game. Is he like for sure their number 1 guy, or is it still kind of, I don't know who's even healthy on that roster right now.
Yeah, he's the number 1 because no one's playing. Like, I guess Breida actually is coming back, and Breida's only 4K. So if he's going to have a full role, realistic, I guess Breida might be an option here. But
I assumed last week, because like last week was he literally like the only healthy running back, and that's why he kind of. And he also has a bunch of bursts.
I mean, yeah, they had like Patrick Laird,
right.
Malcolm Perry comes in and kind of plays a little bit of wildcat running back. But yeah, more or less. Ahmed, they seem to just like the one guy and then give it to him, and that's what Ahmed has been for Myles Gaskin when he got hurt.
Yeah.
At receiver, I mean,
Go for it.
you can go literally anywhere here. Just guys that I'll name that I'm interested in. Devontae Adams, if he's healthy. I think all in the same realm. Julio Jones, Michael Thomas, Keenan Allen. You can even put Terry McLaurin at 69. He's at least similar in price. If he's playing, Kenny Golladay at 5,800 is ridiculously cheap.
Yep, I know. Oh my God, I want him to play so well. I do and I don't. He's going to be mega chalk. I agree. That price, I do not get that price. Yeah.
I'll say Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb at 54 and 5,000. Andy Dalton's coming back, so they'll at least have a competent quarterback. Fine with either of them.
I was going to say that both of them. I'm shocked you said that. Yeah.
Hey,
Lamb is, dude, the Vikings get crushed in the slot. I love CeeDee Lamb and Amari.
Oh yeah, John. This is honestly ridiculous. At 6,000, Justin Jefferson and Robbie Anderson both make plays. At 4,900, Jacoby Myers. I think you can add Deontay Johnson. I do worry about his injuries and how I just don't know if I want to do that in cash where we get on the first drive and Deontay Johnson's out of the game, and it screws you.
I already have the nuts Steeler play, so don't worry. You don't have to worry about that. It's not Deontay Johnson, but
I mean, if you're gonna say Claypool, get out of here. We obviously know it's Juju Smith-Schuster.
Who people don't understand. Let's go to GB for a second. People started telling me, and I thought it was just legitimately hysterical that Juju was no longer the guy and was washed. He's seen 11 targets over his last 4 games and leads the team in end zone targets. And the only other guy I'll add in cash, just so you can stack all the running back, Denzel Mims is totally playable at 3,300.
Oh, that's so cheap. I wouldn't mind that, especially if you're trying to get Kamara Cook. You can go Mims there, which actually is very reasonable, assuming you play PJ Walker as well.
Ben talked me. I don't know. I'm just saying, if you want to go Burrow and Kamara, Cook, Swift, I'm just saying it's not impossible. Because
no more Swift now.
Exactly right. Then I can just punt down to Patrick Laird. I will say, I don't know if you mentioned. I mean, if you're playing Burrow, Tyler Boyd just gets so much volume. I like him no matter the matchup. Mm-hmm. This matchup isn't as good as it normally is, but I think that's truly Burrow's first look. Along with, I don't know why he's cheaper than Higgins. That was confusing, but I don't know. I mean, the last guy I actually got in cash for. I mean, is AJ Green just officially dust?
No, yeah, stop that. Stop.
We're done with positive regression for AJ Green.
Yeah, it's not coming. We've been sitting on it for 10 weeks. It's not coming. At tight end, what was that?
I mean, mine are pretty clear. I mean, Andrews is playable. I don't know if I'm going to stack all these running backs. It's going to be tougher to get. I'm fine with Austin Hooper. He burned me last week, but the Eagles don't stop tight ends. And the resurrection of Logan Thomas is alive. And he's 3,300, and he's seeing red zone targets. He's seen target counts of, I think, 6, 6, 5, 4, some last couple weeks. 3,300 doesn't need a lot, and I don't know. I like Logan Thomas a lot in cash, actually.
Yeah, for me, I feel like it's kind of clear. If you're paying up a little bit, it's Mark Andrews. If you're sitting in the mid-range, it's probably Hayden Hurst or TJ Hawkinson. Mm-hmm. And then if you're dropping down, it's just going to be Logan Thomas.
Yeah.
So we can shift over to tournaments and just quick run through each position. We won't give too many like we did for cash because this week is absolutely ridiculous. And any of those cash guys realistically can be used in tournaments as well. So at quarterback, who are your favorite tournament options?
For tournaments, I mean, I don't know. He'll be popular. I still think when you're paying up, people just don't like to as much. So I still think Justin Herbert is interesting. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I'll throw in, depending on how popular it is, I mean, I'll throw in a stack with Cam. And I would be fine, honestly, playing Cam, and the way I think about it is playing Cam and Jacoby and then running it back with 2 Texans, I think is totally viable. So if Cam's not going to be chalk, I like him. But I don't know. I just think his floor is so high with his rushing. So that's probably my favorite pivot.
Yeah, I'm down with those. My number 1 is Joe Burrow. I think basically any other week he would be really chalky. This week, obviously, I don't believe he is. And number 2 at 5,700, Carson Wentz. I do not think Carson Wentz is a good player. He misses way too many throws. It's kind of crazy. I do believe prior to his injury, he was actually pretty good and showed a lot of promise. It hasn't really taken off ever since he got hurt. With that being said, a few teams have just smashed Cleveland with the quarterback, and Carson Wentz does have 30+ fantasy points in 2 of his last 4. So at 5,700, the upside's there. The risk also comes with it. Moving to running back, who are you looking at here?
Dude, I'm playing Ezekiel Elliott 6,500. I don't care.
I'm in with you, dude.
God. I mean, God, if there's a get right spot, this Vikings D, I'm sorry, they suck. They may have looked confident against the Nick Foles, but oh my God, they're not good. Zeke, Dalton's back. I think Zeke has looked horrible this season. I know the offensive line is broken, but I like him a lot. The only other guy I'll say is similarly goes along, and I guess a good. I mean, Miles Sanders gets so much volume.
Mhm.
That if you look at the box score last week, that was absurd. He had like
so unlucky too.
All the carries. Like, what is a Corey Clement, like 1 carry touchdown? Like, get out of here, dude.
Boston Scott touchdown too, where he very clearly stepped out of bounds.
I love Boston Scott. Corey Clement, he sucks. But yeah, I mean, I like Sanders just based on volume. I think because he's kind of more expensive, I don't think he'll be that high owned, but those are my 2 guys at the running back.
Yeah, Zeke really stands out. Nyheim Hines, I really like as well. And then I'll add in Mike Davis as well. I do actually really like Mike Davis in what feels like a get right spot. At wide receiver, who are the top guys you're looking at here?
For me, on my list would be, you kind of already mentioned I like the Cowboys guys. It's weird that I like a bunch of the Cowboys. I'm definitely not playing any Dalton, but I like Keenan will be chalk, and he should be. But Mike Williams is also viable, absolutely explode against a horrific Jets D. And then, I think honestly, any of those Steelers are viable. Like you kind of alluded to, I prefer both Juju and Deontay Johnson. I play Deontay Johnson like every week, and he like burns you half the time when he breaks every bone in his body.
But he wins you money the other half of the time.
Never owned. Like no one ever plays him, and Ben literally targets him at such a high clip. Like people don't want it. He's never over 8% owned. So I like the Steelers in general, but Juju's my favorite, followed by Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, I'll back both of them. I think they make really good plays. I'll say this one's kind of gross, but Michael Gallup, he's under 4K and has 19 targets over the last 2 weeks, and now gets Andy Dalton, who's more of a realistic quarterback in a good matchup. Like, everyone's going to be after Cooper and Lamb because they are so cheap for what they can do. But Gallup at 3,700 is just ridiculously priced.
I mean, there's the only guy I'll mention last. I mean, we talked about Lamar. We talked about. I mean, should we just chase some Willie Snead points?
No, we don't.
Willie Snead the GOAT. Willie Snead fourth.
We don't chase Willie Snead. Willie Snead chases us, my friend.
What about Jarvis Landry, despite Baker actually not being good?
Nah, I'll start with Jarvis. I already told you this weeks ago. If you don't know, watch our pod from weeks ago. I'm not a Jarvis guy. I think he's good. He's just not fantasy friendly.
He's not. He doesn't have a ceiling really. That's very good. Yeah.
I'll add T. Higgins as well. He's not projecting for much ownership right now, and I think that's a really sharp play. At tight end, who are you looking at in tournaments?
In tournaments, the only guys I probably add is, I don't even love the matchup, but I'll always add Eric Ebron because he just gets so many looks in the red zone. He absolutely needs a touchdown to pay off, but he can easily catch like 5 for 60 and a touchdown, which at 4,000 is more than you need. And I probably wouldn't play him as solo, but I would play him in a stack with Ben. That's probably my guy there. And then, I mean, no one will own him, so I'll just use Jared Cook in this spot. No one's going to play him, and he is absolutely as likely to get you 0 points as he is 20. So just be very aware of that. But I think he makes for an interesting stack. Like you said, if you want to switch from Jameis, Kamara, Michael Thomas, you could use Jared Cook instead of one of them. So
I'll add. To be 100% honest, the 4 that I said in cash, most likely where I'm going. I don't really think you need to go anywhere else. I will add Mike Gesicki, though, after they traded Ford. Gesicki's snap count bumped up, so I have no issues going there. He's also a big part of the red zone, but hasn't scored a ton, so I like that.
Smythe out of here. This guy is just mopping up targets. It's so annoying. Gesicki is so good. This is not throwing the ball. I don't understand, but
yeah, it's weird. But I mean, Miami's winning, so it's hard to fault them.
Yeah.
That's all we got for you this week, though. If you like our podcast, go ahead, click the like button, comment, and let us know who your favorite plays are. And hit subscribe. You can turn on notifications and get our videos at any point in time. That's all that we have for you now, though. So good luck this week.